Thank you, Ashley. And as Ashley said, welcome to everybody today. We're going to go through and continually as we work through here with the Autodesk Collaboration and Docs, kind of work our way down through there and give you a good understanding of how that works and kind of with a civil flair. You know, you usually see it around construction or from a building side of point of view, but we're going to show working around a horizontal project and some workflows around there, and just to show how that works and going through there, as well as looking at docs and how that's going to work. You know, invited Matt in here to participate with us today. And when he gets into the demonstration that we'll do at the end of this, we'll kind of tag team and work together on that. And when Matt gets in there, he'll explain more, but he's kind of coming from a reviewer standpoint and working through there is where he's going to be coming from just using docs alone and going through there. And we'll kind of go through some common workflows that you can do within there around you know, with a civil flair to them, and continue to go through this. So hopefully this shows you the advantage of working in a common data environment and in the cloud and being able to participate no matter where you are in the world. Like Matt's on the West Coast and I'm here in Kansas. So we're doing this together while showing you via the webinar. So for the agenda today, kind of walk through, again, I'm going to look at the Construction Cloud and some of the foundational knowledge and setup, and, you know, at a high level, go through there. And then take a look at docs, right? And you know, initially start off why the cloud and going there, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit of docs and the interface and things around there, just to give you a foundational knowledge for those users that may be new to this and being able to see that, so give you a baseline. And then we'll move into what I consider the secret sauce that Autodesk has come up with, is the desktop connector. And this piece really is the piece that ties the cloud, your project data that's up in the cloud, to your local cache on your machine. And it really takes care of all that information for you. And we'll talk more about that, and really gives you the best of both worlds. And then lastly, we'll look at collaboration for Civil 3D. One of the things I want to talk about is looking at the bridge and how to connect projects and files and things that are in a different project or in different hubs. So you can look at how to tie that information together and be able to, you know, use that information that already has valuable knowledge for you, and being able to collaborate and use that. The other thing, as I said earlier with Matt, we're going to look at kind of do a mock scenario, a little workflow here of doing markups, and he's going to assign an issue to me, and we'll work through that, and I'll go correct that and go through that process for us. So kind of take a look at how that looks from building bridging a project and going through some of that, and then being able to do markups and workflows and make those corrections. So the key thing when I start looking at this is, you know, why the cloud, right? Well, when you look at this, we have connected teams, right? So we're trying to collaborate, whether that be internally across disciplines. This can also be with multiple subs on a project. So we have these different environments that are really challenging and workflows to connect that data. The teams can be in different locations, right? And around the world even. So how do we collaborate? How do we connect all that? And, you know, how do you facilitate that? You know, the trick is having that connected data, right? In a common data environment is the key to making that happen. But the trick is, it's got to understand how engineering documents work and how they have some unique abilities within them. And that's always a really challenge. And that's what the Autodesk Construction Cloud has done really well. It takes, whether you're in Revit looking at work sharing, or Civil 3D with data shortcuts and sheet set manager, or Plant 3D with databases and working through all that. It understands how that works and allows you to take advantage of working in the cloud and being able to work basically anywhere. I like using this slide here You'll see a lot of slides. You might see some newer slides out there that have where Autodesk continues to invest in the cloud and buying other companies, ProEst and many others that they've been buying. And most of those tend to reside around the construction side of the house. And so when I'm showing it from a civil flare, I like to just keep it really clean. And as we look at this from a civil perspective, you can see here that we have on the left, we have the AAC collection. And then right here at the across the top, think about these as different modules, right? Even if you start looking at a digital twin. So these are all kind of like different pieces and modules. And then you notice that they're all right on top of Docs here. And that's really the key to making all this happen, right? So when I look at this, this is the foundational piece. It allows you to really do that project document management. Some awesome things that come along with this is the document versioning. I don't know about you, but I've played this game many a time where when I'm working on a project, I come up with my own backup scheme, right? So I can have my own backups if I needed to go back and things like that, my own versioning schemes, and other employees are doing the same thing. And now all of a sudden we end up with so many files, we're trying to figure out which file is the right one, and as you move forward and trying to put the plan sets together. So all this becomes really challenging and time consuming. And what's awesome about having Docs as the foundational piece here, this is all done automatically for you in the background. And the versioning, every time you save, a version is going to be created. And the other thing that's really great about this is, have you ever needed to go back to a prior version that you had to go reach out to IT, figure out who to work with in IT, right? You go through those processes and try to find the file and when it was last saved and to get that backup for that version that you were looking for. So wouldn't it be nice to actually be able to see all those versions, when they were saved, who saved it, and be able to just in a button click get that information back and make it the latest version. So we'll talk about that and show that a little more as we get into here. Also, you can have approvals, so there can be some workflow diagrams for approving documents and going through there. And with the mobile app, that allows people that are out in the field to push data right back into this common data environment, whether they're taking photos out in the field or whatever. You can push that information directly back and have access to that information in the field right on your phone. So I think that's a really key thing as you going through here and working, being able to do that. And then you have the dashboards, right? Different insights into the dashboards, and you can do things like that and take a look. And then if you start using the markups and issues and things like that, even from a civil perspective, you can see if maybe you're getting behind on your markups and see how that's coming along. So kind of almost a little bit of a health check if you're getting behind on your project and things like that. So there's a good way to keep track of things that way. And another great thing about this is it comes with unlimited data, unlimited projects. So it keeps all that data up there. And what's really nice about this is the data is there. So it's there forever. I had a client that deleted a file a couple hours before a deadline. And they reached out to me. Well, he said that was there. So I walked them through, showed them, got the file back. And not only did we get the file back, it had all 47 versions of the file with them. So it's really powerful in how that works and being able to do all those things. Again, when you look at Docs, you're looking at being able to manage that file and designs. It's really that foundational piece, link files, reference files, organize your documentation, issue tracking, and all those type of things are management within there. Some of the things that I like to look at is the document control. This is kind of looking at an interface within there as well to the cloud, and you can see all your files you can upload. Has all this functionality right within here, being able to see your project data. You can do document approvals. So, you have permissions and approvals and collaboration and design review. So there's many things that you can do within here. The other thing is the viewer within the web itself is extremely powerful. So that docs part that comes with the viewer and the web supports over 85 different formats. So this is extremely powerful, and I'll show that when we get into that later. But really, this takes you into here and being able to really, in a lot of cases, just use that viewer to view the information and not have to have somebody maybe a reviewer just happen to have AutoCAD Lite or a sheet of AutoCAD to be able to review the information in there graphically and things like that. They can come in here and just use the viewer that comes with Docs itself and be able to see all those different files and work within there. So very, very powerful being able to do that, including being able to view Microsoft Office files, being able to look at those, edit those within there. So it's extremely powerful when you start working with that together. So when I look at the web access, you can see here via Docs, when I take a look at this, this is really an interface into here. So I'm going to be in this project in a Ridgegate subdivision project I've been working on. So we're going to kind of be in two projects today, and you can see as you look in here that you have the interface here. So it's very common interface, what people would be looking for when you're going through the web. It has whatever your project structure is going to look like, right? But here's where you get to see all those different versions that happen automatically. There's no extra work for you to do that or track those. That just happens for you. So you can see here I have 37 versions in this case at this point in time on my master file here. And I can look at that and be able to pull back different versions that I wanted to, that I'd saved. And you can have markups. It shows if you have markups on the file. And one thing nice about the markups is when you're working with markups within here, you can have private markups, and it shows if they're there. And they're just like metadata on the file. It's not a separate file. It's not anything else. It's just kind of there. And then if you want to, which we'll show later, where Matt will do that and publish the markups, and then you can start looking at assigning that to a company or a user and things like that, which Matt will get into more about that in detail later. But that's where you can start doing those type of things and being able to view different files. And again, when you look from Docs, you have access to all this information here, including issues, which we'll do today, transmittals, reviews, members, reports, and Bridge, which we'll kind of talk a little bit about Bridge here in a little bit, and kind of how that sets up and how that works, and basically work through there. So it's, again, unlimited data and projects. Markups are awesome and work really well. Another thing that's really cool about the versions is being able to do compare versions. So if you're a reviewer, sometimes it's hard to see if the markups were picked up or not and things like that. So one thing nice, almost like the old light table you used to have, I'm kind of dating myself here, but you used to overlay with a light table, you can see if markups were picked up. So you can kind of do that same type of thing with a comparison between different versions. Well, I think Matt will look at that a little bit today as well. So go through here. And then a key thing is automatic locking. Locks any of the different files that are out there. And that's really a key component when working in the cloud and having data cached locally. Other systems, a lot of other systems cause you to manually have to lock that information and do that. So the automatic locking is key within this. And one of the good things about the automatic locking is when you go through here and say you're in a large Civil 3D file and you hit save, you might be on a slow network connection, internet connection, and it might take a couple minutes to save that file up. Well, the good thing about that is even though you can close and go on working, that file that's being saved up stays locked up until it's transmitted that file all the way up. So just ensure that nobody's happens to be opening it in that time it was checking up. So really keeps that security for you. And again, with all the different permissions level and security, gets the right information to the right people at the right time, and basically anywhere that you are. You just need to have access to that project. And as I mentioned, we're going to kind of walk through a scenario today, where you can take those markups and assign them to, again, a company or individual. And so we're kind of going to walk through that today. And I have kind of where Matt and I went through a test of this earlier yesterday. So by default, it's set up, and this is where we kind of found this out going through it, because we don't do the scenario workflows every day, but it appears to be by default it's set up to hourly notifications, because we weren't having it come right through, and so we did some research and found that out. So, but it also can be set to instantaneously, so you can do those type of things with it as well, so to come right through. And this is the kind of notification you would get if it was a markup was assigned to you, right, as an issue. So you can go do this. So a little hint, what we're going to be leaning toward is a drain in a manhole. So we're going to have to be fixing something that I missed, and Matt happened to catch it as a reviewer. So he's going to go, we're going to work through that scenario with you as we continue to move forward through this. Now I kind of want to move into, that was around docs and kind of the foundational piece and the common data environment. I wanted to move over and start looking at ABC Pro or BIM Collaborate Pro. You'll hear different terms out there for this, but really this is the piece which we were just talking about. Docs really has all this information up to here, right? And then when you look at Pro here, these are getting some key additional really information that's needed from a design perspective or authoring. So you're able to come in there and start looking at model coordination, handling of the, when you look at Civil 3D, the DREFs, right? So data shortcuts. And we'll take a look at that today and see how that works, where you can manage your data shortcuts up in the cloud. And again, it's for the users, what's key about this, and you'll see as we go through here, it's no different than working on a network drive from a user perspective. So there's the learning curves very minimal to be up and running in this and be at full production. So happens very quickly, and being able to use that. The other thing is Sheet Set Manager. That Pro, you need to have that as well to be able to use that. And then if you're collaborating with people that are using Revit or Plant 3D, say on a wastewater treatment plant or different things like that from a civil perspective that you can be working with, or even just a site in a Revit commercial building or things like that, that you have the ability, then they need Pro as well, so they can work with the work sharing and be able to work with Plant 3D in there. And then that also allows you, because you're in a common data environment, to work together and collaborate together. So this is the piece that I'm going to focus more on today. I'll talk a little bit about Bridge and setting that up just to make sure people are aware with that. And then I'm going to kind of take a look and show you just how Civil 3D works within the cloud environment and data shortcuts, and how to take advantage of all that information that's out there, and the ease of use. I think the key thing about this is, the ease of use and getting rid of pain points. When you think about it, we lived in an environment now that's changed dramatically over the last few years, and you have a lot of hybrid environments where people are, working a few days at home and 3 days at work at the office, and kind of working in a collaborative hybrid environment. And we have IT people trying to have people VPN in, and creating bottlenecks, and it's becoming really a challenge. And so I'm working with a lot of companies around ACC as they continue to move forward to promote and be able to work within this environment, be able to collaborate internally, but also with other participants that are outside of their own company, right? And being able to work in that common data environment is key. And that really is taking place and having that up in the cloud. And then, like I said all along, the key part is that caching and that desktop connector, which we'll talk a little bit more about here. But that really, is the key thing driving you, is the collaboration. More and more people from a civil point of view are starting to get into clash detection. I have more and more people starting to get their pipes, using gravity structures, which they've been using for a while, but also more people moving into pressure pipes, to layout pipes, and doing conduits and other things that they can put in to run clash detection against that information. So I'm getting more more and more queries about that type of information and setting that up. So that's kind of moving, as civil tends to always lag a little bit behind, but as we start to move into that BIM model, right, and trying to get that data in there, more and more cities and are looking at trying to do those type of things. And here's just kind of a view here where the utilities are under the ground here. You can see a parking structure, but here you can see where you have storm pipes or and gravity networks crossing and having an issue here with a clash, right? So that's going to need to be addressed. So, the key thing is being able to, do this information and review these clashes and detections. And when you start having these models and doing that, being able to have those models up in the cloud and being able to, verify that information before you get out in the field. And, you get out in the field and this one's already been set and you get ready to do the other one. And now you have this problem. Now this becomes a very expensive problem. So that's part of the thing about being able to have these models and being able to run these clash detections ahead of time is, reduce that and make those corrections before it gets out in the field. And design collaboration here is really neat. So think about that as different levels. So if you're internally and everybody's on a network drive and everybody's within your company and behind your firewall, that's typically what we would call really high trust environment. So when you're working in a high trust environment, everybody may have access to different folders, but basically everybody has access. When you're working with outside subs and consultants and things, they probably don't have access. And if you do give them access, maybe they have it through VPN. But when you're up in the cloud and you're getting everybody access to a project, and say you don't want to have everybody seeing what everybody else is doing all along the way, right? So I use an example for maybe survey is creating the existing surface at this point and design's chomping at the bit to get going, right? So on a network, they might start grabbing some information just to kind of get started in a high trust environment. But then again, if maybe it's a subbed out, maybe that surveyor doesn't want you to have access to that survey until he's gone through his due diligence and ready to turn that over to you. So if you look up here in the top part of this, you can see that there's some people call them swim lanes. They're broke out a lot of times by either discipline within a project, or you can break them out by company that are handling different parts of the project. And then what you have here is you can see these. Then in this case, whatever you have here, team 2 would publish a set of documents that then the architectural team in this case could review and consume that information. But they don't see all these interim things while they're working on it. They only see what they published out. Team 2 publishes out. So that's really neat to have that work and have that ability within here too. And that's what Pro gives you that as well. So those are some really neat things that come along with that. One of the other things that you'll hear it called is C4C3D. So sounds like a Star Wars theme there, but that's the other thing that you'll hear. Then ABC Pro for Civil 3D. Kind of want to I'm just going to pull all these out here and speed that up a little bit here. So I pull through here just so you can see. So the desktop collaboration for Civil 3D, key things are it's fast, reliable connection to the cloud. Desktop connector is what makes that happen. Also, the key things with the Pro is Sheet Set Manager for the web. That is a key piece, allow you to do all that information. Also having data shortcuts up in the cloud. And one of the things that I tell people all the time, you can have that saved locally, and we'll talk about that. The cache data. So that allows you to really work basically right from your machine, which is awesome. So the desktop connector is the piece that makes that happen. And it's very familiar in what you're used to seeing here. So it's been modernized, the next generation of that. And it's very powerful, very easy to use. You got a familiar interface. You can right click, do things within here. You can also see one of the key things I talked about is the automatic locking native file locking regardless of the application. So that's a really key thing that happens here. The locking and releasing of that lock. Conflict resolution if that needs to be done, so you can go through that process as well. And again, the sheet set manager for the web, there is a limitation. I always recommend be on the latest version and the latest version of the connector. But at a minimum, for if you're using sheet set manager, that you need to be on 2023.1 or later, so that you can have that working within this environment. And you can see it automatically recognizes when it's in the cloud, and it changes to the sheet set manager for the web for you. Again, I mentioned already about all the different project types that are available, over 85. Now I want to talk real quickly about bridging. So bridge is something that's newer, been around a couple of years now, but that allows you to come in here and bridge between different projects. So one of the things, since this is project related, it becomes really challenging. It was challenging to try to share information or get information from another project. So this is a great way to being able to do that. You could even share standards that way if you wanted to, but you can bridge between different projects and things like that. And being able to do that, you need to be an administrator to be able to invite or delete people out of the bridge. And, so it takes a certain level to be able to set that up and control that environment. You can also choose here, as you see here, to have automatic updates when you're going through and doing this. So you can choose those to automatically update if you want to. So if there was changes, they'll push through. In this case, you can pick a folder. So when I did mine, I just did it from the folder level, the specific civil folder, so that came across. So that's going to grab all those different files in there. But you can also do it down to a file level. So I think that's really key when you start looking at that. You can come in here and browse the emails. You can put in the email or put it by project, however it may be, to get that email put in there as well. So I'm going to jump out of the slide deck here. There we go. So I'm going to start real quickly at the interface. And like I said, this is customizable here in the interface. You can go to where different things are. You can even put in bookmarks here. So I can put in a bookmark here and, go to tips and tricks that we did. I happen to put in a bookmark for us here, and we can do those type of things and go in there. Also, it shows you of where your different projects are that you have located around the country at this point. So you can see those if I wanted to. Also, your last files that you were in here. So if I come in here, I can really quickly come into my project up here, click on that, and I can say I can go right into Docs in that project. And again, this is through the web interface that we were talking about earlier. You can come in and see all that information. Some really neat things here. I come in here and, if you have structures in here, Revit files and things like that. So in this case, a bridge that was built, you can look right at the RVT file within here, right from that viewer I was talking about, right? So I can spin this around, look at the viewer here, zoom in, look at this information. You can see my bridge in here that was done and built using the bridge workflows. And then from here, I can come over here and take a look and say, okay, well, let's look at the sheets that were created from within Revit. So if I wanted to, I can come over here. I can look at my abutment sheet here, or my pier. So I can turn that on. I can see where my data came from. So if I zoom in here, I can see all that data right there. And here's the pier, pier detail itself. So you can come in and look at that. So that's really cool. You can go right back and forth within there and jumping into those. When you come in here and look in the civil, for example, you can come in here and look at all those different versions. So if I look at my master file here, I always have a hard time finding my files. There it is. So I can see I have 37 versions of this file here. So this is really powerful. If you look at that, it shows when it was last saved. Of course, I last saved it on January 26th. If I wanted to go back to that November 30th version here, all I have to do is pick Make Current, and now it's going to make that my latest version. So that's really cool. No contacting IT, nothing like that. If I want to look at my volumes, I can come right here again. Like I said, Microsoft Access, I can come in here and change that from viewing to edit, and edit right in here. I can look at the different tabs that might be involved in this. So right from this viewer alone, and this is just using Docs to do all those things. So you can do that. Very powerful, being able to come here and look at all that information. If I come over here and look at design review, just in case we don't have time, we can go in there and I'll do that real quick here. You know, you can come in here and look at a design review and compare some versions, which we'll probably do later on the ones we're doing. But I can come down here and do a compare. And you'll see that the same areas are grayed out. And you can see the new area there. You can also do a side-by-side, which allows you to slide that information back and forth. Very cool, really good for reviewers, and Matt's going to go into that a little bit more. I'm going to kind of jump into Civil 3D and open up a file here. So in this case, I'm going to open up my alignments file. This is a subdivision project that's right within my ridge gate. So I've got a ridge gate subdivision here. And you can see that I have my bigger project here. And what I wanted to do is bring in my information that I bridged. So if I come over here, I went through this process here, and let me switch to my other project. And again, I can search to my project right here and go RG. I go to my subdivision project. And you can see I already bridged that civil folder here. So how did I do that? So I can come over here and select bridge. And what I could do is build a new bridge project. I can select incoming. And here's the one I created here. I didn't set up the automation on, but I can sit here and import my files and folders. So if I come down here and set up a new bridge project, I can give a name. In this case, I'll say Alan. I can say Matt. Sorry, I'm trying to get down there. I'm not seeing it. I'll just pick that one. So I can pick a person here that I want to set that to. I don't know. That's not what I want to do. So I'm not sure. I might be grabbing the wrong project there, but I can put that in, send a message, and send that invite to do that. So once you've done that, you can create your project that you want to do. You can import in files and folders. So I can select those, right? So then I can come in here and select the files and folders. So I can go in here and pick my project. So in this case, I grabbed my Ridgegate development project. And then here you can see it's syncing through and looking at all those files that are in there within that whole project. So in this case, what I did is I went down to an alphabetical here, went down to my civil, and right here you can see that's my root of my whole project. So I was able to come in here and select that. And by selecting that, that's going to pull in all my other files that are underneath that project. But I could go down to individual files and individual things within here as well. So, and then also I could toggle on automatic import updates from folders. So if things were changing in that one I'm bridging, that I would get those updates automatically. So you'd need to have that toggle on to make that happen. In this case, when I initially set it up, I didn't do that. I missed having that toggle on. But you can see that information and who set it up, and of course it was sent from me. So that's kind of going through and setting up a project to be bridged. Now, if I come back over to my files, you can see right here that I have that project that I bridged, like I said, that folder here. And you can see I have all that data in here now. And again, there's that master file. Of course, it only has version 1 in here, but you can see I've pulled all that information across here now because those versions don't come across, but I have access to those files and that information now. So that's really cool because now I can come back over here. Now I'm in my project over here that I have, my new project. I'm working that subdivision, that I can go ahead and use that. And you can see here also, I just opened up that file when we're here. You can see that it locked at 1233 here. So all that's working really well. You can go through and do those type of things very easily. If I jump back over here, I can come over here now and say XREF. And what I did here is I have that file that I brought across. And so now I'm just gonna reload that. And this is the file that I bridged. So I bridged that file across, and you can see now I brought across the geometry from the alignments from that other project because I want to look at how I want to tie into this road here, right? So because I had access to the other project data here, I brought that in and started looking at being able to do that information here. So that's really cool how that works and being able to tie that together and build that information within there. The other thing I did here, if I come back to my start, I have a file here where I look at my drainage. You can see I have my project, my information. There, it's coming up. And you can see I started putting in my drainage for this particular project here and started getting in all my information around this and working with this in a collaborative environment, right? So this is what allows us to work together. And this, again, Matt's part of this project and the subdivision I'm doing, and we're going to kind of go ahead and finish this out at some point. But he's also, as a reviewer, kind of checking my work on where I'm starting to lay out these inlets as I'm working through there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Matt at this time.
Thanks, Richard. So what Richard's mentioning here is a lot of what you have capabilities of accessing with a combination of access to the EEC collection and that add-on for BIM Collaborate Pro. So what I had mentioned earlier was that we're trying to take a look now at some of the things that are available just through Docs. So we're going back to just what's in the web interface. And in this particular case, we also have a site account that's set up with only that. So if I take a look at the login here and the subscriptions, the only thing that's assigned to this is Docs for the AEC collection. No additional software, no installs required for desktop versions of anything. When we access this information, it's all done through that same ACC for Docs portal, acc.autodesk.com. When I log in, this page is very similar to what Richard had showed you earlier, where he's got a whole list of projects and locations. In my case, for this particular account, I've only got 2 projects set up, and I can access those very quickly again through that project list. Now, the subdivision project that he was working on, my account or this account is added on as a project member there as well. As long as you're a project member, even though you're not the one that's setting up the project, it's going to show up there and be available for you to access. If someone removes you from the project as a member, then that project disappears. But as long as you're an active member and the project is live, you should be able to find that information on that main page. When you access your projects, just like you saw on Richard's screen there, you've got all the information that's available to you via the entitlement that you have. So in this case, again, we're just focusing on Docs. And I can see files and specifications, reviews, transmittals, issues, reports. Because I am an admin on the project or was added as an admin on the project, I have access to the members list and all of their entitlements and that same bridge tool that he talked about as well. Now, for this case, if we're looking into that review and sort of markup and editing capabilities for collaboration and design and feedback, what I'm trying to do here is get to those files. And in the case of Docs, because we have that built-in viewer for those files, all I need to do is navigate through the file tree, the same folder file structure as you see there, and I can get to all of the same drawings that Richard had. In this case, because I'm not accessing these through the desktop application, I'm using just the built-in viewer that's there. And these are all native Civil 3D file formats, so they don't need to be converted or anything. They're posted to the project just the way that they are, just like you were using them. But in this case, I'm opening them up through the viewer. Now, for the drainage file that we're looking at, that was the one that he had just showed recently with that lower portion of the subdivision, started laying out some of the inlets and drain lines here. If I take a look at that, you'll notice that in the viewer, it opens up to what would be the equivalent of like the model space inside of a Civil 3D drawing. And this is currently just scaling it to the extent of the file. So when I'm looking at this here, it's a huge area of land. And in that case, when we're looking at the standard tools in the web viewer, all of your markup and commenting tools are going to be available here on the left, or excuse me, the right side tool panel. And for this case, the clouding, the text, the boxes, all of those tools are automatically going to scale themselves for the size of the sheet. So in this case, I'm looking at a very, very large sheet. And when I try to draw a cloud or make a comment here, I can see that the clouds themselves are very large. The text would be kind of relative to the size of the screen. Now, for this particular case, if I needed to make a comment on just the drain line, this drainage area here that's been laid out for me, if I see something or notice something that needs to be addressed, then it would be difficult for me to draw a cloud this small because of the fact that by default, the web viewer is scaling everything for the full extent of the sheet that it's displaying on the screen. So what we want to do in this particular case would be come up with a viewport or a layout that's set up for that aspect of the design and have that saved as part of the drawing there as well. So I just went into the sheets and views to display the different layouts and tabs that are part of the civil drawing. And I can see that we do have a layout 1 that was set up. This was set up with like a 1:30 scale perspective here. So it's just a layout with a viewport on it that's got a scale. And what that's going to do is it's going to give the web viewer here an additional scale reference so that the markup tools can now recognize that, this is the area of focus and this is the scale of what we're intending to provide the markups on. So when Richard was talking about this earlier, he had also mentioned the availability of publishing or unpublishing markups. And in this case, we're going to use the tools that are there. And you can see now that the cloud is much more relative to the size of what I'm trying to comment on. And if we take a look at the design here, I can see that he's got a number of manholes, crossings there. He's got a catch basin or catch basins. And then he's got some manholes that kind of keep that drain line following along the path of the roadway or inside of the right-of-way, perhaps. When we get to this section here that I just drew the cloud around, it goes from a catch basin down to another catch basin. And it seems like it's missing a manhole in that section there that would kind of jog it to keep it within that road area or within the right-of-way. So if I needed to flag this or comment on this, I could draw a cloud using that cloud tool. I could add some text, just standard text in a box, or even a call out with an arrow pointing to it, and add some commenting there. So if I wanted to make a call out, I've got that information with the arrow, and I can add the text that says missing drain manhole. Now, if this is just for me, or if this is something that I wanted to add as my own particular markup, then what I can do is just leave it the way that it is. I can keep that in the web viewer here and not publish this. So if I don't publish this, there's a publish option there when I select it, then it's essentially a comment just for me, like background metadata for me to see when I log in. Because it's unpublished, I created it, it shows up when I log into this portal and I access the file through my Docs account. Now, if I wanted to share this with additional users who have access to the same files and folders as I do within the project, then I would go ahead and publish that. And as I publish it, it becomes essentially a more publicly shareable or publicly viewable set of comments and markups there. But again, these are just markups. So if someone had logged into the portal, opened up this file, they would then be able to see this information here because it's a published markup. If I need to get a little bit more formal and say, this is something that really needs attention, I need to be able to get someone to work on it right away. Then what we can do is we can go to the next step and create issues. And by creating issues, we can create a kind of secondary level of formality within these comments and say, you know, I have an issue, it's located in this spot, and when I edit this issue, I would also then say, this is going to be a missing drain manhole. It's open status. The description there, I could say, please add and assign it to a user. So this is where you get to that secondary level of formality, rather than just a markup that's sitting there available for someone if they happen to open the file. In this case, I can actually go in and say, if Richard's my designer, I'm going to assign it to him and give it an actual due date. So I need this to be done by Friday the 29th. And by adding this information to the project and creating this issue, it's then going to notify him automatically and say, there's an issue that's been created, it's assigned to you, here's a link for how to access it, and if he clicks on that link, it'll take him directly to where this is inside of the file, and he'll be able to take a look at that, get back to his Civil 3D drawing, make the changes, and then save the changes and update it there. So by creating those issues, we can then have something that's formal, it's trackable, they all appear within the project history that's available inside of the Docs portal as well. So you don't have to worry about saving emails or sorting emails and finding those. At any given time, if you're back in the Docs portal, you can click on the issues items here on the side, and it's going to show you what active issues there are and even give you a link directly to that file that it's available in. It gives you the assigned information and the due date, of course. And when Richard goes ahead and addresses that, he can even create a completed date or send a report or a notification back that says it's been addressed. On a secondary note as well, if I am waiting on something to be taken care of or waiting on a change to be made, for me as a Docs user, I can actually subscribe to a folder and see and get notifications anytime contents of that folder change as well. So in this case, if we're looking at this design folder and I'm waiting for changes to be made within this particular location, by accessing that folder and then choosing the options here, I can say I would like to subscribe to the folder, and it's going to give me a notification via email anytime there are changes made to the content of the folder. And I can say to the folder only, which would give me the main level of information, or folders and all subfolders. So in this case, if I just have the design folder where I have the 4 drawings, I don't need subfolders. There are no subfolders here, but that would make sense if I was subscribing to the civil or the subdivision folder, the parent folder there instead. So by setting up that subscribe option, I'll then get a notification via email anytime something's changed. The one indication or one instance where you wouldn't get a notification is if you are the one that made the change. So if you're the one that makes the change to the files in that folder, it doesn't email you and say there's a change that's been made. If it's a change made by someone else, then that's where you're going to get that email if it's a subscribe. But with that being said, you've seen that option there of being able to go in. Again, no software required to be installed. This is just with a Docs entitlement. I was able to take a look at that drawing. Take a look at the area of interest. If there is a smaller area of interest, you want to be sure that you have a layout set up with a scale applied so that you can get to the right size of these markup tools when you're working with that in there. And then, of course, once you've done all of that and created that issue, that'll automatically send an email out to the assignee, and they should be able to get to that and take care of it. So hopefully that's all gone and completed itself in the course of the time that I went over and did the recap. Richard, hopefully you have that email and you'd be able to make the change and show them how it works once the updates are posted back.
Yep, I can do that. It's came through very quickly now that we have the instant on. So again, I mentioned in that we changed that so it's instantaneously so that it would work for when we were in here. I think by default it has an hour on that, which I showed you in the PowerPoint. But here you can see that it came through 12:49 is when he sent it, and I got that, the due date. So again, it's coming right to me. So now I know I've got to do something that's been assigned to me. Again, I can come here and view this. Which that took me right to that file. So I can come over here, allow me to view that file. and I come in here and see the markup directly. So I can go in the way that he showed you, showing the issues that have been created and assigned to me. I can come in here and click right on the link and go right into here. Now I can see that I'm missing that manhole. So I can come over here very quickly and pop back over and be able to come in here and go ahead and edit my network here and go ahead and put in a manhole. And now I got that in, I can go ahead and move it over here and get it within the right of way, right? There we go. So now I was able to make that change very easy thanks to Matt. And again, this is us collaborating and doing this in real time while I'm here in Kansas and he's on the West Coast. So, this is very cool. It allows you to do this type of work together and bounce back and forth. And I could go ahead and close that off, and then he would get a notification I'd done that. But, leave a second for any questions there might be.
Thank you.
Thank you.